meeting of the planning board we'll do a roll call vote just to introduce everybody. The date is April 1st, and this is the Winchester Planning Board.
Brian Vernalia.
Nick Rosettos.
Great.
Jack Lemenager.
John Cortizes.
And I'm Carrie Layton, and we welcome Jack to his first meeting. He is replacing outgoing member and past chair Diab Jarius. The new family is present. So we've opened the meeting, and now let's open the public hearing for April 1st. I guess same.
I move that we move into public hearing.
Great. Is there a second? Great. All in favor, show of hands. Okay, we have opened the public hearing. So the first item on our agenda is the article that the planning board will be bringing to the Springtown meeting. It will be Article 4. What number? 4? Article 4, and this is a planning board proposal to amend section 8.1, the floodplain overlay district of the Winchester zoning bylaw. That is the extent of my expertise on the topic, so we welcome to the table the venerable town engineer, Matt Schuman.
Thank you. This is just a brief update presentation on the proposed zoning changes that we have. So again, the purpose of the changes in this article is to bring the floodplain zoning bylaw up to speed with the National Flood Insurance Program standards. The town participates in the NFIP program. It allows residents to get flood insurance in town. As part of our participation in the program, we need to maintain certain requirements for building in the floodplain and the floodway. The floodplain here is the special flood hazard area, which we colloquially refer to as the 100-year floodplain. It's the 0.1% flood area. Currently, we're working with maps that were actually issued in 2010, but there was some update in 2016. Some folks who have been in town for a while may recall that there was pretty major changes in 2010. In 2023, FEMA started updating the maps again. The changes this time are much more minor in nature. They didn't do a full hydraulic analysis as they did in 2010, so there was no new actual flooding analysis, calculations, or anything that was done. It didn't incorporate any of the town's flood mitigation programs, but it did update the boundaries of the floodplain on the maps using updated topographic data. We were notified in January that the maps have been adopted by FEMA, and they will be effective July 8th of this year. So the town is, as I said, required to update the maps and make a couple of other revisions to our bylaw to comply with the Massachusetts State Model Bylaw, which was also updated since the last time at town meeting adopted some changes. And again, these are all required for us to maintain our good standing with the NFIP and allow our residents to get flood insurance. So I'm just going to go through very quickly the changes. In yellow here, you can see the changes, and then crossed out in the regular language is what's being removed or changed. So in terms of the floodplain district boundaries, we're updating those to match the boundaries of the new maps. For floodways, we are adding a Zone A. Zone A is a floodplain area that doesn't have an elevation associated with it, but they have added one, so we need to just include that reference in our language. We were also flagged just to update our definition or some of our requirements for floodway. This is verbatim from the state model floodplain bylaw. And there was some kind of a language error that we were just trying to clarify by deleting some language for floodway. Recreational vehicles, again, we're adding a Zone A in town, which we didn't have before, so we were required to add Zone A into our language. And then within the definitions, which is actually, I believe, Section 10 of the zoning bylaw, there's a section or a subsection for definitions that relate to the floodplain overlay district. So we were requested to add mining into our definition for development, even though it's unlikely there will be very many mines in Winchester in floodplain. And then we were also requested to add the highest adjacent grade as a definition. That's something that folks look at, we have to look at when looking for compliance with floodplain requirements. I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Are there questions from the board?
Just out of curiosity, how many properties does this impact?
We haven't done a detailed analysis, but there's actually slightly more properties being removed from the floodplain than
Yeah, that's
being
what I mean,
added. I would suggest to anyone who's interested or listening at home and wants to know about a specific property, they can contact our office and we can look into it for them. FEMA will also be holding some open houses as we get closer to the July 8th timeframe. And residents who have flood insurance or have a change should get contacted by their insurance provider or their mortgage provider.
Presumably their premiums would go down.
It's possible. I know that there's been a lot of changes to how the premiums are decided, and it's not just on where you are in the floodplain, so it's hard to say for sure.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board for Matt? Are there any questions or comments from the public on the floodplain overlay? Yes. You can come up to the table and it'll put you on record, put your comment on record and get your.
Well, it's not something I think you want to record. It's really difficult to hear back there.
Is there something we can go back over or?
Someone could speak a little louder. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like us to go back over for clarity? Okay. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? Okay. So I think so at this one, we can, I think, vote to accept. We have seen this content before. With no public comment, I think we can vote to accept the.
We already voted.
We're
This
just
is our
moving on.
article.
Okay, that's it. We just thank Matt for his time and.
And Matt, you should
This is
expect
it.
to be presenting this at town meeting,
Sure,
just to be
certainly.
clear.
Yes, we will not be
If they
taking the
call on the
reins from
planning board,
you.
we'll be standing up and saying,
Introduce it, and
welcome,
Matt will
Matt.
be presenting it. So now town meeting members can watch this and be aware of what's coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the second item on our agenda for the public hearing is the citizen petition, which we have also heard before, but we're bringing it into the public hearing. The citizen petition is to rezone a portion of the planned residential district at 7 Wainwright Road, which is known as the Ledges, to Residential District A. This is a citizen petition that was brought in the fall. For clarity for the planning board, we will be hearing from Rich Bartels, the citizen who is bringing the article or has placed the article on the spring warrant, and we will be taking public comment on this. We will not be voting on this evening. Town council was not able to join us this evening, and we're waiting for a memo for him about sort of, our next steps. And hopefully he'll join us at the April 15th meeting, but we welcome Rich and
Thank you.
away.
So, I know you guys are very busy. I just want to make sure on a time check, I'll take about 15 minutes and try and go
Right.
through it. And then if you have questions, I'm here for them. We withdrew the articles because we heard a lot of concerns and we needed to address them.
Just
Charlene
make
can
sure
hear.
your microphone's in front of you. We've had some trouble with sound.
Is that better?
Good? Everybody good?
Good. So, I've presented before and wanted to just think about ways to better think about the proposal that we're making. Often described the Ledges as a retirement community 55 plus, and so I just wanted to dissuade people of that notion. We're, a community of 110 units, 240 residents. And we have, 56.375 acres. And in that, we house these 240 residents. About 60% of them are over 65, but quite a few of them are still working. We have 5 residents who've been named Winchester Citizens of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce. And in terms of things, some of the demographics might help. We have 20 families. We have 9 children K through 12. I think one may not be going to the public school, so we may only have 8 in the public school. We have 6 multi-generational families up there. Grandparents, parents, children, lots of different mixes. We have 55 couples. We have 29 singles, although we just lost 2. We have, in transition, I think 6 or 8 houses. We have 9 doctors and PhDs. We have 5 professors. We have at least 4 real estate agents. We have 21 dogs, and we have 22 dogs now because we just got another dog up on the 100s. And I don't know how many cats because nobody walks cats. So, but you know, that gives you a little better picture of the fact that we're really not a 55-plus retirement community. We're a growing community, and things are changing all the time. So why are we selling the land? We just hope to mitigate some of the effects of our rising costs and maintenance requirements. And why are we coming to you guys? Well, we need permission to go before the town meeting, and we need also permission to get rezoning that you'll have to approve. And the quick analysis is, how's the Winchester going to benefit from this? Currently, the fallow property generates no additional revenue for the town. Property will provide an additional tax revenue stream for the town and an additional place where you can charge a 1.5% Community Preservation Act so that we can add to that fund for the town. The town collects more than $1.5 million in annual real estate taxes, and they've been doing quite a bit of collection of taxes with very light use of tax service of the town services. We contribute about $650,000 to the school budget out of that $1.5 million, and our children who go are probably utilizing about $150,000 of that. So we have a $500,000 surplus towards the contribution, and we want to be able to keep our properties up and in good shape so that you can continue to collect these taxes and make sure that these taxes are properly applied to the Winchester's pride of their educational system. In terms of being able to sell this piece of land, it'll give us that extra boost to keep the property up. And also, the Ledges has decided to add approximately 23,000 square feet to the northern portion of the conservation restriction upon the sale of the lot, rounding up the north section of the conservation restriction to approximately 5 acres. And Dave Miller, Gloria Corda, Elaine Vreeland, and I met. Very successful closeout kind of meeting today. The final nits and points that we need to be able to get the product, the package together to be able to submit to the lawyers, to then be able to submit to the state for review. So I think we're very close. And just from a personal point of pride, I've got the Ledges property is adjacent to the Suckerbrook Reservation, and we house at least 21 different animals species, which I've captured on my trail camera. So I've contributed those to the Conservation Commission, and hopefully they will be available on the website pretty soon. So that's it. I have just asked that we can move forward and get this to the town meeting for the vote, and we'll see where we go. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Questions from the board, comments from the board? Please.
I have a question. When you came last time, You mentioned some feedback from the community, specifically one particular neighbor. Have you received feedback from the neighborhood as a whole beyond the one particular neighbor?
No, we have not. We have not heard anything at all. I did meet with that one neighbor and went over the trees that they would like to see retained on the buffer zone between their house and the lot, and we marked them out, found them all to be in the buffer zone and not anywhere on the building lot itself. And then I met with Dave, and we looked over the property, and he understood which trees might need to be taken out. There weren't any major concerns. So I've done both of those property reviews since we've talked. Trying to think of what else I might have done in that process.
I'm just trying to understand what the community feels about this, and
Yeah,
I don't know that I have a good understanding yet.
Well, I don't think I do either. I came to Massachusetts 40 years ago, and I came to the Ledges in, I don't know, 2016 or so, and everybody says it's still not from here. So eventually, maybe I'll get credit for my time, but not yet.
Time served.
Is there any member of the public who's here to speak on the Ledges out of curiosity? No. Okay. So we aren't positive about what our next steps are. I believe what has to happen is we take our vote, which will not happen at this meeting. It would be at the April 15th meeting with guidance from council. Because it's a citizen petition, but it's about zoning, the planning board would need to vote in favor of it to get it debated at town meeting, and town meeting would have to approve it to get it enacted. And so we need to chat with we're waiting for a memo essentially to get very clear guidance on how to proceed. You've crushed the Hearts and Minds campaign. You've been very thorough there. So you've done the legwork, and you've shown, good faith in terms of your interest in preserving the town and being a good neighbor, as you always have been to Sucker Brook. The question for the planning board itself, there's a covenant that was written before this board was seated, that took a certain acreage and committed that to be a planned residential, a development district. And our decision is whether or not removing a parcel from that violates the intention of the covenant. That particular parcel, did that play a certain role in that zoning district? And then to think ahead, what are other examples that we might confront in the future? And do we feel like this case is a clear example of a reason to change a single spot within a designated development? Because if we let one kid do it, we'll hear it over and over. So we want to make sure this is a specific benefit for this example, and that it's to the benefit of the town. You've done absolutely everything you can on that. I'm just letting you know how we'll process it as a board.
Thank you very much. I won't protest. I will just,
Yeah.
I will sit.
We have had this conversation. You've done great.
All right. I will then await the results of the 15th, and then if so, I hope to get to present at the town meeting.
Great. Thank you for coming back. Nice to
Thanks
see
a
you.
lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
585.
Okay, our third agenda item is the application of John Moriarty and Associates for a special permit approved under Section 7.3, so this is in the Central Business District, and Section 9.4. This is a change to a parcel in the CBD that requires special permit because of a change of use. This is a small parcel off the Rotary, adjacent to the train station, that has captured a curious amount of attention in town. A lot of people think about this property. Oh,
I hand out these just so you have one in front of you.
that's great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Thanks. Actually, we have 7 of them.
Thank you very much.
You got it?
Yeah. There's 2 of them.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You already have this up? I'll give it to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
this unchanged from what was submitted earlier, or is there any?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
just want to make sure there's not like a secret page in there.
No.
Those of you following along, Cory Booker has set the record for the longest speech on the Senate floor now. Okay, would you like to just,
Yes,
Okay,
so I'd
great.
like to introduce myself. So my name is Eric Arstead. I'm with John Moriarty and Associates. I'm employed by John Moriarty and Associates, but I'm also part of the three-person partnership, which is GrabV, doing business as A Borrowed Chef, which is the proposed tenant for the space. This is John Eric Pinnicode. He is part of one of my partners with the A Borrowed Chef. So he's here to kind of just support the program. But basically, I'd like to give you an idea of what we're thinking about doing. So I'm going to have my John Moriarty and Associate hat on, and then at times I'll speak as part of the tenant. So I'll do my best to cover all your issues, and obviously feel free to ask questions at any point. But essentially, you guys are all aware of the space, 585 Main Street. It's basically parking at this point. The building has not really been used other than for storage and some of our items that we use with our contracting company. So, you know, what the owner, the landlord wants to do is we want to renovate this and provide a use out of it that can actually be beneficial to the town, which is the planned culinary use of A Borrowed Chef. And to kind of give you a quick rundown of what that means is A Borrowed Chef, you know, we prepare pre-made high-quality meals. So it's you know, made by a chef. Our third partner is a chef, classically trained in Belgium, Kim Lambrax. If you've ever had his food, you'll know it, and you'll remember it. So we want to sell the pre-made meals from the spot, along with, you know, pre-made trays, salads, lunches, a variety of things that we're going to make in advance. It's not a restaurant; it is a pickup spot. So you know, the front section of that building would be the pickup spot, and then in the back, this is a very important part. It'd be a commercial kitchen that is shared. It's a shared commercial kitchen, or a commissary, often referred to. So local chefs that need a place to cook, and they need a licensed place to cook, they could use a space. They can rent it by the hour. They can rent it, you know, on a monthly subscription. There are various plans that you can put together. But chefs like to cook at all times. So this would show some activity there. It can only hold 4 to 6 chefs at a time at most, and one chef may want the whole space himself or herself for a certain point. But that's kind of high level of what we would use there. Now, from the owner's perspective, the owner sees this as, all right, during the day, we need parking, private parking for our company, because there really is a limited amount of parking in town. So whenever our employees leave, they head out for the evening, we have space for people to park for another use. And so that's kind of the complementary use that we're hoping to get out of this. Because the pickups, we're not going to be open during the morning hours or even the early afternoon. It's going to be more of later afternoon, evening, when people need to pick up, all right, because right now our major focus are pre-made meals for dinner. So you go pick it up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, run home, heat it up, we're good. The weekends, it's completely wide open. You know, our company doesn't use that space. The Moriarty company does not use that space on the weekends. So, you know, it would be completely clear. So from a high level, that's what we want to do. From a construction standpoint, I assume you want a little quick rundown on that. So, you know, the building is about 2,100 square feet. I would say about 1,900, give or take, is usable after walls and different spaces are taken out. What we want to do is we want to pull off or upgrade, basically replace all of the skin that is essentially the old masonry, thin brick on a plywood layer veneer that we all bought back in the 30 plus years ago, and now we want it gone. So we want to put new hand-laid brick, aluminum storefront windows, and then the cornice you kind of see on the top, or the band along the top, would be some form of a wood or whatever material, synthetic or composite that was allowed to kind of trim it up. On the inside, it'd be a full gut. There really is not much to save other than the slabs and the exterior structure. So we're going to keep the footprint, keep the structure, replace the skin. We'll probably have to do significant work on the roof, gut the inside, and then the tenant, the other hat, we come in, and we're going to fit it up with a commercial kitchen for 75% of it The front of house, which is the two big bays of windows you see, that would be your retail pickup. So we'd have display case, hotter, or a cold or just non-chilled, a counter that you would, pick up and prove that you either paid or need to pay. And it would be fairly simplistic from that standpoint.
Would you be able to pick up hot meals?
That's not the plan right now, but, that could be something like, say on a Saturday morning, we make, 100 breakfast sandwiches. You could set them there and people come pick them up, but it's not a place you come and eat. We don't want to be a restaurant. That's not what we're interested in. We actually want to help out because the two of us and our third partner, I have 4 kids, he has 4 kids, and the other has 2. We're constantly on the run, and it's tough to kind of cook dinner sometimes. So at least once a week, it's an order out. This is another option for
It sounds like a huge
that.
need in the town.
Huh?
It sounds like a huge need.
That's what we think.
For the town.
That's what we
great.
think. And, my boss has let me pursue this because he agrees with what we're looking at, so.
It's like Revolution Hall meets Home Chef.
Yeah, it's
It's a cool concept.
Do you have any projection at this point when you would open for business?
so if.
Nick's like, tomorrow?
We need dinner.
Yeah,
What's your dinner night, Nick?
Exactly. We should definitely try the dinners. But, say we get this approved in May timeframe, I don't know, early June. I'm guessing construction's going to be 4 to 6 months at least after that. I would love to get it open before the end of the year. But it really just depends on how smoothly the process goes. But we think it would definitely benefit the town. It would, the window that you see kind of behind the light, the lantern, that would give you a view back into the space where the chefs would be cooking.
Oh,
And
great.
you would see activity. There'd be light on. It would be a vast improvement.
That's great. On behalf of the Winchester High School population, I'd like to suggest a rotation of a taco chef.
Taco chef.
My
Note versus
my
note.
one promise for my stint on the planning board is to get tacos in town.
So would it be helpful for me to go through the slides? I know you've probably seen them. What would you
I think
prefer
for
that
the
I do?
folks who are here, it might be good to quickly buzz through so they can
Yeah.
see. So our job as a board this evening, I believe, is to approve waivers. And then it would move on to the CBDRS next for discussion around the design.
Yep.
So I would focus on things that will be pertinent to the waiver discussion for our sort of speed, but to get I have a feeling I know why most people are here, and it's to make sure that I do in fact step down as chair. But for anyone who's interested in this discussion, I think going through the slides would be nice.
So maybe I should jump real quick to the requested waivers, just so we can see what those are.
Great, and then circle back.
we'll-
Perfect.
yeah,
That sounds great.
so I believe those are the.
Last page.
All right, so the site development plan, like I said, we want to keep the same footprint. We're not looking to change the site. We're looking to keep the same parking. We're looking, basically, everything as is. The only thing is, right on Main Street where there's some broken, spalling concrete, we have to fix that. We're either going to put new concrete in or put some pavers in to make it look nice. If you've seen our other facility or other building that we did most recently back in 16, which is 18-20 Park Street, which is the one you see when you're pulling out of the Brugger's parking lot, that building right in front of you, that's one of our buildings. We renovated that for our office. So we pride ourselves in doing good work. So we want it to look nice. We're not going to change anything, so the site development plan seemed like a straightforward one. The phasing plan, we're going to do it as a single phase. The traffic, circulation, parking, and transportation demand management plan, that kind of carries into what I see as a larger project where you would be doing traffic studies and larger efforts. But we did discuss the proposed parking because, town planner suggested that'd probably be an item to bring up.
Can I
So I
ask-
do have a slide on that.
Oh, I was going to say, when they get to that, I have a specific question about that, but I don't need to do it now.
Yeah, we can do it right now.
No, let's
Go through
circle
the
back to it.
waivers.
Okay,
Yeah.
whatever you guys want. Open space, conservation lands, and natural resources. So there really is nothing on this site but a tiny little triangle in the very back that it's nothing to the public. It would be buried essentially. So If there's something to do with that, let me know, but I can't imagine you would ever.
And that's in the floodplain, is what you mean? No, sorry, the tiny corner is in the
In the very back, there's just a piece of grass.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Open
yes,
space.
yes.
Yeah,
Will
other
not-
than that,
it's-
it's blacktop.
yeah. Okay, sorry.
Hope it's not in the floodplain.
But some of it is part of your property.
There's
isn't it? We're
a
coming to it.
discussion on that, yeah.
Okay,
Historic conservation and preservation, it's not a historic building, it's not in the register, it's not in the map. The utilities plan, we're going to use all the existing utilities as possible. If we need an upgraded service, then we'll have to request that and do the appropriate steps to get the proper utilities.
Great.
The stormwater management and flood mitigation, which you're just bringing up. So from a standpoint of, how we're going to manage the water, it's going to be gutters and downspouts as typical. The property is partially in the 100-year floodplain, but all of the existing building and all the existing thresholds are technically above that floodplain number, which is 22 plus 22.85. So we don't see an issue. We had it professionally surveyed by Jim Keenan here in town. He reviewed it, and his professional opinion was we meet the requirements for not, we're not below floodplain. So that is where we are.
Okay, we'll leave that to the engineer.
Okay. And
I didn't know if he'd already reviewed it with you, but.
landscaping plan, there really isn't much of an opportunity for landscaping, but we do want to pretty it up around the main street, so we'll probably have potted plants and things like that to bring some, better feel to the space, especially with that indent kind of closer to Laney's Grill, that part of the property.
Great.
And, the housing plan is not applicable.
Okay, so now let's take a look at the site. Circle back.
So here's the site. I'll go to the next one, which is a little bit more of a blow up. So this was done by Keenan. The red obviously represents the building. That dashed line is kind of in the middle of the site, diagonal. That is a floodplain line. When you go to the Fermet, the map, the town engineer is fully aware, there is a specific flood elevation listed. And when you look at this survey, at each of the door thresholds, existing door thresholds, that elevation is higher than that posted elevation on the Fermet. So that's where we believe we stand in regards to that. So I know the town engineer had a question about that in our pre-application meeting, and I haven't heard anything about that yet, but I assume he will give some feedback as necessary.
Okay, great.
This is kind of just showing, Main Street's on the left. The blue would be the front of house, and the yellow would be back of house. This plan isn't a version that will be tweaked. It will probably start out with a smaller kitchen size. That where you see the double door at the bottom right, that will remain as a parking garage or a garage door at this point. And if the business is successful, as we expect it to be, we can have a discussion with the owner to, and I'm talking now from a Borrowed Chef perspective, to take that piece as well. This is another, this is 7.31615 or 5, showing kind of all the different pieces. That purple piece is that kind of, in the back section of grass or actual terra firma. The gray is the parking, the red's the building, and the blue is the area that we'll have to fix the concrete side. It's like a sidewalk or frontage apron. This is the picture that I feel like says, a lot. Whenever we actually frosted those windows, we didn't intend for them to turn brown like that, but it looked better before they did turn brown. So if we don't do this, we will at least go change that back to a better color, maybe. But it's rough, right? It's rough. That stone doesn't match anything in town. It's out of character. There's a tiny bit of red brick, which is in line with the town, but all of that red brick, all of that faux stone, all of that would be replaced. Essentially those two elevations. On the back side, as you go around to the MBTA side, that's CMU concrete masonry block. There's no need to change that. That's back of house. Nobody's going to see it. It seems appropriate the way it is.
Are the doors, so the doors are raised to clear the floodplain. Will they be accessible, or is it meant to be, are folks meant to go inside?
So we have two entries. The one off of Main Street is non-accessible, you'd have to step up. The one on the right-hand side is accessible from the parking lot because the parking grade actually meets,
Okay.
barely,
Okay,
meets the accessibility requirements.
okay.
So the goal is not to have to do any of that. It should serve itself as is.
Great.
This is to give an example of the orange line at the top is the shared party wall with the grill, the Eleni's Grill or restaurant. The blue are the walls that we would update, and the green is showing what we would, keep as is. And it's kind of like a partial demo plan, what's going to remain.
Okay.
This is the proposed floor plan. As I said, it's a retail and kitchen. We'll obviously have a bathroom and a little storage space, just to, every building, every facility needs that, but it's a pretty simplistic design. You need as much open space in the kitchen as you can get. This shows that in a commercial kitchen, you have all the various pieces of equipment. And so we're trying to show how it can fit. Right now, the number ones or 001s are the prep tables, which is what a chef would need to actually do his work. We're showing 8 of those right now, but based on our initial start, we're going to kind of lose that right-hand bay. We'll probably have 4 to 6 of those to start out with.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously looking to grow. These are expected elevations. The top left would be, the one that actually would have a garage door on the right instead of that double door. One on the bottom left, that is your Main Street elevation. So that is your primary entry, non-accessible entry. That window, it gives you a view into the kitchen space. And on the top right, we're showing the accessible one with a rail to kind of designate the area that you would, I think that might be slightly different based on, it might just be rail up right next to the door. It might not need to come all the way down to Main Street.
Wine and spirits, you're getting a liquor license?
I didn't say that, but yes. Okay. Yes, we'd like to have a packaged wine and beer offering to pair with the food. I mean, everybody asks for it. It seems to be very popular.
Makes sense.
This kind of give you a sense for the finishes and how it could look. The current plan is to have the retail portion of the building be a white painted brick. And then the transition from the existing neighbor, Eleni's, over to that white painted brick, it would be more of a wash brick. So it would help transition from the red to the white. That's the current thinking right now. The windows you see in the picture are aluminum windows. You can use the black framing. You can get silver framing or gray framing, but we're thinking the black trim right now is a nice look. And then the finishes. So the finishes, we'd like to have polished concrete for the most part on the inside, because we have an existing concrete slab, polishing it and shining it up and making it look good. If it's not that good of a slab, then we'll probably have to put a tile or epoxy for the back of house for the kitchen, just for cleanliness. The floor or the ceilings, it's going to be open ceiling in the kitchen area, probably drywall in the front of house, and then we'll have drywall walls almost everywhere except for the commercial kitchen piece where you need stainless steel or FRP board for cleanliness. This is just showing where the different floor plan types potentially would go. And then here's the parking slide. I'm showing on the left diagram currently how the parking is today, or as you'd see typically. And then on the right, because we don't have a heavy load of people all at one time for this place, I was trying to show at least 6 cars to show that it fits easily.
Okay, and they can enter on each side of that collection of 6 cars, so where there be a direction, like if you end up being a high-volume pickup, situation, what's the traffic
If it's a
flow?
high volume, then we'll have to reassess, but right now, the flow would be to come in from the curb cut closest to the crosswalk
Okay,
and pull in, and if you can't pull into that first one, you could go around and pull into one of the other spots.
okay, and you're intentionally not using parking striping because you want to leave it open to that flexibility?
We're trying to keep it flexible because there's such a demand during the day for the Moriarty company, and we're keeping cars off the streets by parking them there. So that's the thought behind this. We obviously care about safety and doing the right thing. So we will have to work to make sure this, that our customers know how to use the space. Our employees will not park here. We will have, the high school kids that are going to work the front desk, or younger kids, they will walk or,
Yeah,
ride their
you
bike.
have great proximity to the train station, too.
Yes, the
so-
train station, I hope
Yeah.
it could bring in folks as well. And then the chefs, they'll be signing a contract with us, so they will park where we'll say you have to park, down at one of the lots or further down Main Street.
And then loading and unloading vehicles?
So yeah, so the first one you think of is trash. We're going to store the bins in the back behind, between the train station and the back wall. We will have trash pickup early morning hours before the lot is full, or an after hour later in the evening. So our goal is to stay away from the kind of the 8 to 5 window.
And then food delivery, those trucks,
So the food delivery, it's interesting with the chefs here. It's not like you're getting a huge Cisco truck.
right?
Unless there's a special event where we needed to order a large bulk. Usually these chefs are smaller and they're bringing their car
Yeah.
and they're
Van of
wheeling
vegetables.
a little,
Yeah.
a little dolly with their 2 crates of food.
And they'll have storage inside the.
Yeah, and as part of the facility, we will rent out storage space as well. I mean,
Yep.
these commissaries rent out every little spot they have in the facility, which is smart and good use of the space.
Great. Brian, did you have other parking
So I
questions?
sort of answered my question. So the chefs during the day from 8 to 4 will not be parking here necessarily.
Yeah, we don't want them to park there at any time, to be honest, unless it's like later in the evening when we know we don't have anyone there. We want them to leave that space open for pickup customers. So as someone, signing a lease with us or a subscription service to use the space, we're gonna require them not to park in that space, because we need to leave it open. It's just plain and simple.
And you would specify where they
We would
should or
say-
could park.
Well, a legal spot outside of our,
Yes, yes.
I know you might not like to hear that, but if there's space, we'll let them park in it. We have no problem with that. I mean, I'm sure they would like to tuck their cars up back behind the trash. And I would have no problem with that, personally, and because usually when you're employees working together, you find a way to make it work, as you see every day, the way we park at this space right now. We put, a fair amount of cars in there, so.
Best case scenario from a business standpoint, how many chefs do you think you would have working at one time?
I'll tell you what I understand, and he's been working at this longer. I think we'll have 4 to 6, but
Okay.
Yeah, you might have, 15 work there, but it's never at the same time. There'll be a handful at the same time.
Okay. Okay, other question, I think your next slide is back to the waivers. Any questions that we need answered before we can discuss the waivers? Okay, so let's go back to the waiver slide.
waiver side.
Yes, I would, well, I don't want to go out of order. Utilities plan, I'm curious about.
Yeah,
Because if you want to go in order, I'm fine. I just feel like the parking, I think I understand better, but the utilities feels, however you'd like to go, whatever order you'd like to go in.
You guys tell
do
me.
you have more questions about utilities? Will potentially need an upgrade because you'll be using a significant amount of
It feels
electricity.
like
Is that what you're thinking?
it's hard to imagine that you won't need, depending on if you have gas ovens there, if you have greater water needs than a gas station that hasn't been doing anything for a long time. It feels like you're going to need to upgrade your utilities, perhaps.
There's a good chance. I know that the gas was reinstalled to the building couple of years ago or less, you know, it's stubbed up, it's there, so we might be fine on gas. We haven't checked the water. I would assume that they're still installing the same size of pipe, but if there is a problem with it, we're gonna replace it. We can't have a non-functioning. But you're right, I mean, it's possible.
And then electric, I'm not sure what the service is there. I mean, again, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to upgrade it if you have to upgrade it.
Of course, yeah. A lot of the appliances are all electric, but some of them truly are gas. The stove, they'll want gas still. I mean, chefs always want that. So, you know, for the refrigeration, the freezing, and, you know, running of the equipment, yeah. So,
Okay, questions or points of clarity from the board before we start moving through these? I think if someone wants to make a motion to waive a lump of them, we could do that to get some off there, and then we could discuss the single ones, or Nick's nodding.
Move, we,
Yeah, no, I think that's, I don't see any problems, but
Any problems with any of the waivers? Okay.
I just think that, I don't know, I saw it was a partial waiver on the utilities plan, so I'm not sure exactly what that means as far as partial versus full waiver.
So you can certainly still waive utilities and request it as a part, it's a special permit, so they still have to go through site plan review and design review. You can still request them to do more, provide additional information on utilities.
Okay.
Typically, utilities plan, when it comes to these waivers, is more for serious tie-ins for,
Okay.
100 units that need, substantial changes. If you would like to get more information from them, I'm sure they'd be able to provide that in site plan review.
I don't know. Probably don't care.
It would probably be helpful for you to come back with more information, but I think if we wanted to do you'll have it as you go through the process anyway, I'm sure you're moving through this.
fact, we'll have to do it, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
we're not gonna open this business
Okay,
without
keep
it.
us updated, I guess, would be. Okay,
That's
I
correct.
don't think we have any significant concerns on our end that would put the town or the business at risk or any of the people who are, because it is a small property. Okay, so is there a motion?
Move we approve all requested waivers.
Is there a second? Any further discussion or questions from the board? Okay, all in favor? You are unanimously waived.
Well, thank you very
Okay,
much.
so-
We need to accept.
thank you.
Accept.
Okay, so now we've got your waivers, so we know which pieces of the application we're accepting, so now we need to accept your application, and then you'll be in Taylor's hands, and he'll usher you through the rest of it. So is there a motion to accept the application for 585 Main Street?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? I think you've gotten a sense of your customer base here, we're all excited about it.
We will definitely remember that, thank you.
We will be eating.
Yeah, at some point, we'll be expecting a roast chicken, some braised greens, and a gluten-free starch.
I see your website's
My
already
work is
active,
done.
Yes.
but you can't order anything.
It is, you can pick up at Wine Country right now.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, you can pick up at Wine Country right now.
Website in case you
Oh,
want
great,
to.
Yeah,
okay.
so welcome you all to try it.
Hey, say that into the mic for the benefit of our millions of viewers at home.
Stop by the Wine Country, for sure.
Excellent, I love it.
Thank you, seriously. Thank you for your time.
Look forward to it.
Okay, so in spite of my tongue-in-cheek comment, I believe we have most of our audience members here for our next agenda item, which is the CBD 14, the amendment request from Urban Spaces LLC to modify the March 15th, 2022 decision on the approved dimensional PUD special permit for 10 Converse Place. Originally granted to 10 Converse Place under section 7.3 and 9.4 of the Winchester zoning bylaw. I am going to ask Taylor to give us, he sent around in the memo what our steps would be, but I think it would be helpful to hear the steps that we will go through, including what we'll be hearing tonight, and then we'll have everyone come to I know I caught you up and about. So essentially, why don't you?
Make sure whichever one of you is speaking, you use a mic, because there's 4 of you, but 2 mics. Thank you.
Unless you want me to keep going.
Okay, this evening will be for 10 Converse Place. All those.
Scoot your mic towards you.
I have submitted a memo to the board that is in the packet. You can read that online if you're interested. There have been some updates to that based off of new design, which you'll see tonight. It's my recommendation to the board to do this process in a 3-step process. A lot of people are interested in having a further conversation, so not making a vote of any action by the board tonight. Continue the conversation, continue the hearing, and continue the conversation to April 15th. Give other boards and committees an opportunity to submit recommendations to the planning board, and then further finalize the planning board decision on our meeting on May 6th. Give us a month to kind of see everything in front of us, talk to other boards or committees, receive public feedback. Is that good?
That was great.
Great. So you guys can take it away.
Take it away. Thank you. I'm Paul Unyabany from Urban Spaces.
Pressing that microphone.
Thank you. Paul Unyabany from Urban Spaces. Thank you for having us back this evening. So since last time we were here, we had a chance to take some of the feedback that we received that evening, as well as from others, including great guidance we've received from Taylor and Ian. So we've love to show you tonight sort of a revised proposal, something a little different than what you saw last time. And it's essentially still tackling the same issues. To reiterate, we're trying to solve a few problems to make the project, in our view, viable and successful. So first and foremost, we're starting with the idea that we're eliminating the automated puzzle parking system that was originally planned, moving more to a traditional self-park system. In this context, where it's not a hotel, it's not valet, it's not fully staffed, our experience is that the puzzle parking automated systems just don't work. They're not practical. People don't like them. So that was a key component for us. The ripple effect of that was that we needed to get more parking elsewhere because the lower level was going to be less dense with parking and more drive aisles, et cetera. So we had to move that parking somewhere, so we put it at grade. What we heard from the planning board and others was that in doing so, we sort of missed the mark a little bit on a few things. One was the importance of the commercial space up against Mount Vernon, and another was that the importance of the units on the east side of the building. We had removed those in the previous iteration in order to accommodate more parking. But with some creative architecture and some torturing of the plans, we'll show you tonight that we think we've been able to address those concerns and balance them with the parking requirements that we have. In addition to reconfiguring the ground floor, residential and retail, we were asking to increase the building height by 6 feet. So that is from 62 to 68 feet, although in the planning board, in the planning staff meeting that we had, the height to setback is ultimately 52 feet approved to 58 feet proposed. It feels a little less because of the setback at the top floor. So basically, to offset that, we tried to massage the footprint of that top floor a little bit more, just again to mitigate the impact of the added height. So with that backdrop, David from Haseen will have the presentation, please.
Thank you. So I'm David Tabankin with Haseen Architects. And this presentation is in 2 parts. The first slides focus mainly on the basement and first floor plan to show you the changes from the approved plan to where we're at now, based on that feedback Paul mentioned. And then later, we have the slides which we showed you last time, which are basically the elevation, site section, and 3D views to show the change from 62 to 68 feet. Those slides haven't changed, but we have them here for reference. So on the left side is the puzzle parking, where we were getting 56 spaces. I believe in Taylor's memo, inadvertently, it said 59, but it was actually 56 in this plan. And in the new plan, we are up to, or down to 53. So it's essentially 47 individual spaces with an additional 6 tandem spaces. So what you're seeing here is the lower level. We're keeping the parking footprint towards the left side of the site. You'll see when we go to the first floor where the ramp has moved from what we showed you previously, but these are all self-parking spaces. The tandem spaces would be a single owner, so we can accommodate essentially 47 individual on the 2 floors, and some owners, 6 owners could have 2 spots. At this level, we have mechanical space for water service, janitor's closet, and bicycle storage is moved to this level. And then what you see under here, which is under residential units that you'll see above, this is where we're looking at groundwater retention tanks to supplement what the infiltration system that Larry's designed for. Stormwater. On-site, stormwater, right. So on the left, again, this was the approved plan from 2022 with the building lobby in the upper left corner, 2 large commercial spaces. We have electrical and mechanical above this commercial space on Converse Place. We have the 2 parking entrances to 2 lifts, which were unmanned, bringing cars down automatically to that lower puzzle level. And we had 3 units, live-work units, facing towards the river, towards the pond on the right side. So the way we've reconfigured this, if you recall, and I can flip to this, but we had essentially eliminated, in order to get in more parking, all of these live-work units and the retail space on Mount Vernon Street. By shuffling the ramp around, by reducing the number of spaces on this floor, we're able to squeeze in a line of thinner units than we had previously, obviously. But these vary in size from about 450 square feet to about 900 square feet. So really workable to make a range of live-work units. We're showing them as 5. This is something I think we need to review with the housing partnership to confirm the change in unit count, but there's some flexibility here if there's a feeling like there should be, this number should change. But these would still have individual entrances off the multi-use path. The site plan otherwise would not change, other than taking these 2 curb cuts that we had previously for the 2 car lifts and making a single lift. This would, a single curb cut. This would be a one-way ramp, so there would be a signal at the top and bottom, which we've seen done successfully in other places. It's resident only, so this is the sort of thing we feel comfortable that residents would learn how to use this, learn how to read the signals, and a car would go up and down individually. And we're maintaining the residential entrance on the northwest corner. We've shifted the location of electrical transformer and switchgear rooms. These are based on sizes from feedback we got in 2022 from Eversource, but we need to confirm these. We're hoping they can get a little tighter. And we've reintroduced a commercial space at the northeast corner. So those are really the main improvements. We think we've successfully addressed getting more of an active south side of the building with 1 live-work unit, maintaining a commercial space with the visibility of that entrance from Main Street, and then maintaining full frontage rather than having parking on Mount Vernon to get that commercial space back in the northeast corner.
I wonder if you could make a brief comment. So the live, work versus residential unit is configured differently inside. Can you make a brief comment on whether the transparency for the units is different than a residential would be, and whether there's any interaction between the, folks on the bike path and the live workspace, or would it be shielded as it would in a residential unit?
I mean, I think there would be large windows, but it would be controlled on the inside. So the idea would be, you're really relying on, if someone is an artist and their bed is in the corner, but they want sunlight and they want to have the door open so someone could come in and look at their art, then I think you would want to control that from the inside, rather than shielding it with screening or planting from the outside. Although presumably, once we get into the landscape plan and planting, there would be a soft edge of low planting along this side of the building.
Great, thank you.
I think it's worth noting two things that David mentioned. One is because of the additional unit count that we think we're reconfiguring for different size units, that it will yield an additional affordable. Right now, as proposed, it was 6. As approved, it was 6, and would be going to 7 affordable units. And so, to David's point, we'll discuss that at the right time with the affordable housing folks. And also, we were sort of excited about this because it does really provide a range of units for people. We had all relatively large sort of empty nester style units, on the other floors, although some might be, for younger families and singles as well. But these really, because of the size, they give a price point that is going to be, more affordable, and so we can have an array of housing opportunities for people now in the building.
Any other comments on this slide before we, okay.
So the remaining sites are really just noting the change in height. What we had showed on March 4th, the proposed building down below was formerly at 69 feet, and as we went back and looked at the structural systems and things, we believe we can maintain this added space from adding that parking in the ground floor, pushing some of that lost FAR up into the building, and we're able to maintain this at 68 rather than 69. So it's a 6-foot change that we're asking for. And these, again, go through the view of that change. Essentially, we're keeping the design the same with this added level distributed amongst the heights of the windows.
So your first story is how many feet shorter than the proposed? You go from a 16 to a 13-foot first story? Okay.
Correct.
And then you've added one more story, so now we're at 5 or 6? 6, okay.
So these were all the drawings above, are all the drawings that we had done for the planning board in 2022 per their request of wanting to see the context and the heights relative to some of the adjacent buildings. And then these are the blow-up elevations, looking in more detail. I think there was a question last time about awnings at this ground floor. I think that's certainly something that could be reintroduced now that there's commercial space and lobby on the Mount Vernon facade.
I can't quite read. Does it have the height of the mechanicals above?
It's 8 feet, shown at 8 feet above the roof.
Okay.
So it's less than that above the parapet. It's maybe 6 feet above the parapet, setback on all sides.
Okay.
This is where you can see, particularly on the Mount Vernon Street side on the right, where that top floor has pulled back, a bigger setback on Mount Vernon, and a bigger setback on Converse and on the east side as well. So on the top, you can see we had these deep bays creating deep shadows, and we've recessed those back so that there's more of a setback from those bays. The back wall remains in the same plane.
I'm just thinking about those designs, and they look nice. I'm just thinking the original building had more of a mansard kind of appearance to the top floor, and I'm wondering if it's possible to kind of push on the more new urbanist design elements of the building to kind of draw in Brown and Stanton and the town hall, more of a historic appearance, and I don't know to what extent that's possible, but it does have elements of, say, maybe a mill building that might have been built a while, but there are certain things that could be done to kind of accentuate those kind of historic details that would draw in from the other buildings on the street. Maybe perhaps a mansard, maybe not as far as the pitched roof of Brown and Stanton, but that might be something to consider as well.
Right, so, what was incorporated previously, the two sides of the building, this base level behind these projecting bays and the front were sloped slightly to create that. By pushing these back, I think we felt like we were divorcing this from that mansard a little bit. It's more of a conventional setback story. A lot of I would say generally the composition and the brick details and the composition of the base, the middle, the top, were things that we worked through in 2022 with design review, with Beha Associates, with Dennis Carlone before that, and with the planning board. So we tried as much as possible to keep this without venturing too far in a different direction. But there are still, this is conceptual design essentially. As this gets detailed and drawn, and the brick detailing and the precast lintels and sills and things get developed, I think some of that detail will become more evident at a larger scale. Certainly the shapes of the projecting bays and things are something we can fine tune.
Great.
And I see the guardrails. Those are meant to be usable outdoor balcony
Yes.
spaces? Okay.
Yep, and that was a key part of the original design, was to get outdoor spaces, usable balconies, as many of these units as we could, particularly facing this side, less so on Converse Place because of the narrower nature of that.
I'd like to add that, excuse me, as a former member of the Historical Commission, we went through this thing ad nauseum, and we went back and forth, and there was a lot of what Nick was saying, that we'd like to see some more of this historic references, and at the time, the Historical Commission felt that, excuse me, that you had done that. We were satisfied at that time. I just want to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is just showing that approved top floor plan on the left and showing how we've slimmed that up to mitigate some of that apparent height on the right. But again, if there was a feeling, I think that these needed to push out again to create more of an active edge against the sky, I think that's something we could study. It may be taking off some of the length in order to push some of that volume out on the sides.
To be clear, even though these are both the top floor, they're a floor.
That's correct.
If they were next to each other, they're actually a floor apart.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Just 6 feet, though. Typically, a floor might be 10 to 12.
Right.
Just to be clear, yeah.
Okay.
And then running through the 3D views, each of these is the approved view and the proposed view. So you can see the line of the brick setback going up 6 feet and the line of the top floor going up 6 feet. These views are actually showing the 7 feet, so we didn't go back and correct this from 69 to 68. Close. And this is updated site section showing that original 60, so the building height is measured to the top of the roof surface, high point of the roof, so it was 62 previously and 68 proposed.
And to your point, Carrie, was the ground level is where most of the action is, 3 feet down, but we still have really good ceiling heights. We're not concerned at all about the viability of those. In fact, they're pretty tall. They're even taller than the rest of the floors. So one of the biggest concerns we have these days as developers is that the trend of ceiling heights is increasing. People want it used to be 8 feet, right? And then it's 8.6. Now it's 9. So we made a firm commitment to make sure these are 9 or higher in the case of the ground level. So.
Okay, great.
I mean, it is a much bigger building. I mean, well, much. It's a bigger building. I know that some of the constituents would have liked to have seen a smaller building. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Definitely. So we have either the luxury or the burden of being new to the project and learning a little bit about the history. But our understanding was that that actually ping-ponged back and forth, that some wanted it taller at first. And then this is where it sort of settled. So for us, we did try to stay as true as possible to the original planning board approved plan. And especially given the last meeting we had, with those changes that we said, keeping the retail at the front on Mount Vernon, keeping the units on the side, east side. But something kind of has to give, unfortunately, a little bit for the project to be successful. Right now, the project is in bankruptcy, and we're trying to resurrect it. And so with our 20 years of experience, we felt like this struck a good balance. Obviously, we need to make sure you feel the same way. So yes, 6 feet is an under 10% height addition, hopefully not considered substantial as such. We tried to control that. It would have been great to put a whole story on, put 12 feet on, and then have some of the pressure taken off the structure. But we didn't want to do that in recognizing the give and take nature of this transaction. So hopefully that explains the genesis. Oh, sure. The floor area, is also limited, as you know, to 3.0. So we'll be obviously respecting that limitation. We have no choice, other than to try to get a variance, which we wouldn't want to, wouldn't be practical. So we are keeping doing our best to keep within those limits, and recognizing there was no height limit as Taylor outlined in here. Again, we just tried to balance out our needs with the previous approval and the town's wishes. But we're excited about the building. We think it's really, that's the benefit sometimes of these meetings, right? That it's time consuming for all, but it creates a better building. And we're really satisfied with what we have here, and hopefully you will be too. But we'll obviously continue to work together to tweak it, to make some more historic nods and other issues that need to be addressed.
That'd be great. Thank you.
What was your FAR? And 2.99 was what was approved. So that's
the new building.
So because we haven't worked up through the floor plans yet, essentially there will be some double height spaces because we're pushing down the first floor. The electrical rooms, for instance, need to pop up into the second floor. We'll probably pop up the lobby into the second floor. We're talking about whether we carve out a light well at the upper units. So we'll have to use some of those tricks to make sure adding the full floor is pushing us a little over. So we need to carve away to hold it at the 2.99, 3.0. Yeah.
So this is a building that we interact with kind of in a circle all the way, this is like one of the few buildings that we walk sort of all the way around, and we have access to it from the bike path and from, Converse and from Mount Vernon. Can you say a little bit, last time I think you had less commercial space on the first floor. Can you talk about the feasibility of shifting that around, and if you're at sort of the maximum for feasibility, and then in terms of the height, which I think the discussion before the height with the planning board before was sort of a, tall and more open area around the building, or shorter and less open area around the building. And so it wasn't necessarily that people really wanted it to be on the maximum footprint and as tall as we could get it. It was that trade-off.
I see.
So I think it would be helpful for folks to understand if this is the best experience that we can get walking around it. When it was very first pitched, it was, an open cafe out to the waterfront and shops along Mount Vernon. And so we're losing quite a bit of interaction with the building as we walk around it.
Thank you. So one thing to note is, I think as Taylor highlighted in his memo, that although the height as proposed is 68 and as approved it's 62, the real experience I think people will feel is probably a different metric. It's the height to setback. And so right now, we're proposing 58 feet. When you experience the current building, which I know is not popular, is it's actually 62 feet. So so it will actually be, we think, an improvement in the experience. It will feel less high, even albeit with the 58-foot instead of 52-foot, the 6-foot increase. So that's maybe a first important point, that the building today experiences 62 feet to someone walking around it. The building tomorrow, if approved, would experience 58 feet. So the point about commercial viability and interface, with the water resource and with the path, very important. Obviously, there's huge benefits of the building location, and very important pieces we think and understand from the townspeople of the town. So we want to do as many improvements as we can to the waterfront. That's where the environmental mitigation comes in. To the path. There are certain areas, we talked last time, where they've narrowed up. We could widen them and sort of make some public improvements. In terms of the retail itself, in today's environment, if we're being frank, we're really concerned about the viability of the commercial space. But recognizing how important it is to the town, to the planning board, we restored it, and we think that the southwest corner is going to be great. We think that's viable. That'll be a beautiful, probably a coffee shop, something where people can spill out onto the green area, enjoy the views of the water, and so on. The Mount Vernon Street is a little more challenging. It's sort of at the edge of the downtown, right? It's across from the fire station. There's some perhaps structural issues with it, but we think that we've sort of right-sized the space, and we think that we can have something that's going to be an exciting, not only building amenity, but town-wide amenity. And if we have to subsidize that in a sense by having very low rent or no rent, that's how we're underwriting it. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. We've done that in a number of locations where we can have a florist, for example, that otherwise couldn't afford the rent, or any number of uses. So we're counting on sort of very minimal rent, so we think we can activate the space because we take the economics out of it. Hopefully someone who says, hey, you could have really low or free rent, they'll come and provide a good amenity. So moreover, to your point, I think that the walking around the building experience, both from a volume perspective and from an interface with the water, the path, and the commercial experience will be really good.
Great. Is there outdoor bike parking? I don't think there was.
Not yet designated in the plan.
It would be for residents. I remember seeing bike storage on the
I think there
ground.
was something within the decision, and I don't remember offhand
Okay.
what it was in terms of providing, so.
Okay. And
We would work through the town to determine if that's along Converse or if it's, either up here or down adjacent to the.
And are any of the parking spaces EV ready?
I believe they,
EV ready? Yes.
they have to
Okay.
be, the requirements are changing, so
Yep,
this
right,
will be
stretch.
permitted under the new building code.
Right,
The
okay.
opt-in code will be adopted, and I think that requires all spaces to be.
Okay.
But regardless of even if the code doesn't change, we're committed to it. I have an EV.
Okay,
we'll
and that doesn't
have-
change the space required. We're still getting our heads around what that means for parking. I didn't see it designated, so I was just confirming.
Right.
Okay.
No, as you know, there's the charger on the wall.
Okay, great. So we want to make sure that we leave room for public comment. Jack, look at that face. You look so
A
concerned.
procedural question. I gather we're going to continue this.
Yes.
But is there a
Well-
target date for some decision? Do the other commissions get involved, or is it CBDRS?
Yeah, so as outlined by Taylor, tonight we are chatting with these fine folks. We have some submitted written public comment. We're going to invite spoken public comment. And I don't think we as a board are doing much else with this evening.
Yeah, we probably should invite the public comment.
And then at our next meeting, we as a board will hash out some of the things that we need to think about in terms of whether this is an amendment to what our next steps are, and then we'll take our vote sort of 2 meetings after this one.
Okay.
So,
And Jack, just for context for you and for everyone, typically the process is when we have a public hearing like this, planning board sees it, I'll then take the next steps, distribute it to other boards and committees, put it on the website, start collecting comment. For this particular one, we've discussed about seeing if we can reach out to previous board members to see if we could get their opinion on the redesign. So most of that work is done by myself and Ian in the planning department, but we'll be doing kind of engaging the community between now and April 15th, where we intend on continuing the discussion with the goal to then continue the discussion again until May 6th.
Okay, thank you.
One point of clarity that may come up from, I'm trying to diffuse as many public questions as I can for you here. There's an outstanding decision with DEP, and do they have this copy of the new plans? I know they're working to create a superseding order of conditions on the existing plan. Do they have the revised version, or are you waiting for?
No, they have the version, which is, from a DEP perspective, that hasn't changed much from what was originally submitted.
Okay.
It's a footprint.
Okay.
And so DEP is considering a superseding order of conditions for what was filed with the Conservation Commission.
Right.
And that was the prior plan set that was approved by the planning board.
And that, okay, that's, okay.
So the
This is
DEP
mostly
issues-
things we'll hash out at our next conversation. I'm just trying to bring some things to the surface before we open
What's
the mic.
important to DEP is stormwater management and mitigation.
Right.
But number of parking spaces, number of units, building height is irrelevant to DEP.
But you have relocated some of the stormwater management, so they probably want to know the new plan.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other comment or question that the board would like to bring up before we open to public comment? Okay, for general choreography, it may be easier if,
Can we have people come up? Maybe-
yeah,
maybe
I mean,
make
we
a
would
few
want them
chairs
to
available
sit
up
at the
here.
microphone,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think we have some space limitations for having everyone. But
Yeah,
I don't know
Yeah.
how to prioritize who sits where, but we'd like to open a microphone in case
Right.
people have
Why
questions
don't
or
we move to the
comments they'd
side?
like to
Yeah.
make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I- Okay, are there questions or comments from the public? Come on up, Ellen. Great.
Hi, I'm Ellen Spencer. I am on the Design Review Committee. For the last 2 years, I was the chair. Now that has been passed. I wanted to make a couple of comments. One is that in Taylor's memo, he mentions a lot of things, and including the Historical Society, the Commission having no issue with this project. What was omitted, and newer members of this board would not know this, was that the Design Review Committee consistently pushed back against this project as too large, and we will provide you with these, cite many instances in the zoning, in the language of the zoning, that the original project, and this one now even more so because it's larger, do not fulfill. And I just want the new board members to understand, and they can go back and look at our minutes and our rationale. We fought really hard, and we absolutely never voted to approve this project. Now it's larger. In many ways, I think it should be considered a new project. Why can't we go back and get something that is more in keeping and more in line with what our own zoning bylaws say? I would also like to just correct one other thing. It is not actually true that there is no height limit. It is up to the planning board if they choose to grant higher levels of height to request something in return. What the last project did was merely fulfill what was required in the special permit with no extra for their extra height. Now we've got even more height. And again, yes, there's one more unit of affordable added. In fact, the planning board can and should consider, getting something for having yet another huge building right in a very prominent place downtown. My last comment right now, although I'm sure I'll think of more, is that while the current building is, what did you say, 62 square feet, and it's a lot higher, the new building, both designs, are going to be experienced as way larger. The square footage, the bulk, takes up almost the whole site. That's going to be a very, very different thing. And I don't think it fulfills language in the zoning bylaws which says that whatever is put here needs to be sensitive in bulk and scale and fit in with the rest of the downtown. So I'm very concerned about this, and I believe everyone's working in good faith, but design review is not in favor of this.
Thank you for those comments and that perspective, Ellen. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, members of the board, public in general. My name is D.M. O'Connell. I'm a resident of Winchester for the last 40 years. My wife was born and bred here, so she's longer than me. We're both architects. I have been a practicing architect for 40 years. I'm glad to say I'm now recently retired.
Congratulations.
More time to devote to assisting the town with development issues in terms of whatever advice I can lend.
We're writing your name down, thank you.
I'm not looking for your position. So, yeah. I think, as Jack mentioned earlier, there have been a bunch of us at the table here, ad nauseum in a way. This has been going on for 5 years. I sat in this room 5 years ago, and with a bunch of other people in the public expressed astonishment at the fact that we were building such a mammoth building downtown on the most precious piece of real estate that this town has to offer. It's a jewel of a parcel, which is why developers are interested in building there. There's no other parcel like this, I would argue, not in Middlesex County, in the state of Massachusetts. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And that's why I worry that we spoil it. In my comments 5 years ago, when I brought my comment here, Winchester is known for its small town scale and architectural character, with numerous historic structures, many of which frame this beautiful site on Mill Pond. It is indeed a jewel. And the proposed development site adjacent to Mill Pond is especially unique and demands a very sensitive response to its signature location. I said that 5 years ago in this very room. I also noted that the scale and mass of the proposed building is overwhelming, consuming a prime waterfront site that connects the downtown to the water. It's a very unusual site because right here we're sitting at the confluence of a town and its expansion, a riverbed as it expands its banks into a pond. And it's not what you see from the streets. It's what you see around town. When you're up at Lincoln School looking down over the site. When you are up at the library looking down over the site. And from other vantage points, when you look down on this, it's not what you effectively see when you're at eye level 5'8" looking up at the building. It's what it does for the overall aspect and beauty of the site. And that's what brings me here. And I get a little bit emotional about it because I'm very, very serious about it, because I do feel that we might lose an opportunity. You know, this very building, and we all admire it for its architectural character and everything else, I think it was maybe 40 or 50 years ago, it fell into serious disrepair. And there was a major push to have it demolished. And certain folks declared that it would be much cheaper to build a whole new town hall. But a bunch of spirited civic leaders and individuals in this town said, no, not the right thing to do. And despite the fact that it might cost more money, it's here to stay. And so I worry when I see this building, and I think it's just way too big for the site. And maybe that's subjective on my part, but I think there's a lot of other people in the audience and at the public at large think that it's too big. You know, I talk to people and say, I'm astounded because a lot of people don't know this is going to happen. That's what worries me too. You don't have a Winchester Star, you don't have publications, you don't have notifications. There's not an awareness out there about the fact that we could end up with a behemoth on our doorstep, on the most beautiful piece of land on our pond. Having said all that, I mean, the purpose and charge of the planning board really here is to determine if the modifications being proposed by the developer are significant and substantial, that would warrant that this go out to a more public process for site plan review, design review, special permit. And there were some very good slides there that sort of showed that. I especially like the slides that showed that the approved building, and then you sort of exploded it, and you said, oh wow, this is growing. And what happened over the last 5 years, especially after, you know, just before COVID, was that there was, and it's very common in the architecture world and the construction and development world, it's called creep. It gets bigger over time. It grows out, it takes up more of the site, it gets taller. It's the nature of the business when you're trying to make something financially feasible or make it more financially profitable. And over time, if you go back over the draft plans, and I would encourage you to do that, go back to the draft plans that we saw from March of 2000 and look at what was proposed. Look what was sold to the public and how we ended up here. You know what it was? Hey, you know, we really need a big building on this site, and you know, because we're going to put it underground parking, because we know that's the right thing to do. Have underground parking. And the quid pro quo was, we'll spend a lot of money doing the expensive underground parking, but we need more mass, we need more height, we need more square footage. And in the end, the planning board bought off on that trade, on the quid pro quo. Give us our underground parking, give us this commercial active space on that ground floor, give us the residential units, open up that ground floor, but take the parking off and put it down below. That was the trade-off, and that's what we were sold. That was the previous planning, and I've talked to members since, that's what they were sold on, and that's what they made a decision on. And now, these years later, we end up with, by the way, you know that putting that parking down there, that really doesn't work. I frankly knew from my own professional experience 5 years ago that it really didn't work. They call it puzzle parking now. I'm not sure where that, automated parking systems are really for more dense situations. So they were traipsing in a notion that we'll put something underground and give us more above. Now it's, oh, by the way, we don't want to put it underground, but you know what? We want even more. And by the way, the planning board it's been suggested to the planning board that, by the way, you just threw an amendment or something. This isn't a major change. Hell, this is a major change. You've gone from taking parking below grade that you promised you were going to do, the big trade-off, now you're going to put it at the ground level. You're going to reduce all the commercial you promised us. You're going to take out those residential units, and it's not a major change. It's a huge change. Adding height to the building is a big change. adding an additional floor to this building is a huge change. Taking the parking and putting it at grade level is a huge change. Removing all that commercial, 6,000 square feet of commercial space, I reckoned, and I'm going by the old plan, you know, I wasn't privy to the one presented tonight, to about 1,200, 1,300 square feet. Taking 5,000 square feet of the commercial, the vitality, the integration for the town and the public with this building at the ground level was gone. And to tell me that, not a big change, just a huge change. This building has changed over time, and now, to crown it all, it's parking at the surface, and by the way, we want more. So I'm not sure, to be quite frank with you, how the planning board could vote that a simple amendment and a strike of the paper would grant approval. It just doesn't make sense. My final point, and I'm sorry for taking so much time, being so animated about this, but I worry about if a project like this gets approved with surface parking at grade level, what precedent does that send? When other areas down here in the PUD, Central Business Zone, let's say the CVS in China Sky, and that whole block there that's designated for development. In future plans, are they going to have surface at grade parking all down underneath Converse Place, and then just a little strip along Main Street that serves for the commercial interests? What sort of precedent are we setting here? Legal precedent are we setting here that could get the town in jeopardy in the longer term? And I'm not an attorney, so I don't know the legal ramifications, but I certainly encourage you to explore that. So anyway, I do thank you for your time.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. I appreciate it. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak, or other members of the many boards and commissions coming up?
I'm Dennis Dale. I've lived in Winchester for about 35 years. I'm a landscape architect, and I used to work for Benjamin Thompson Associates, known for Faneuil Hall and South Street Seaport and Baltimore Inner Harbor and
Couple other small
Bayside, all those
projects.
festival marketplaces. While I was working there, I really got a good understanding of what it takes to have a viable retail space, and looking at what we're losing here, those are really not viable, and I'm wondering whether the team has actually looked at what are the sizes of the retail spaces in Winchester right now how those might compare. And do we need another coffee shop? Well, Nero's is really great, so I don't want to do that. The DM's comments brought back, my wife was on the planning board for a while, and I oftentimes helped her look at the plans, and always felt that there was something going on with the concept of this building, which was intended to relate to what are essentially municipal buildings. They kept on looking at, here's Lincoln School. It's only 16 foot difference. Well, Lincoln School, as a landscape architect, that whole building sits on a different site. It sits way back. So you can have a bigger building on top of a hill. It's not the same as this kind of, tighter, more of a village space, which is what, DM's talking about, I think. Or, looking at this building, which is really maybe a 2 to 3 story building, because this roof line goes up the way it does, very high roof line, but that's all slate roof. And it comes down to like 1.5 stories along Mount Vernon Street. And the library is right there too. It sits back off the pond and all that. So my concern is that this went down a road that was, inappropriate. It's not a municipal building. I feel it's more like the most recent work I've been doing in Darien, Connecticut, right on the Post Road. It should be more a part of the village, that it's a village housing, that it should have this sense of it having grown from, the shops nearby and grown up, and not have, suddenly be another large, massive municipal building. When I look at the sections that always were deceptive in my mind, because they're drawing lines on things, I mean, even pulling from the congregational church way on the other side of the pond, that it was always striving to say it's not so big. And it is a massive building. And I would say that, is there a way to I think if you went down to 4 stories, that would be great. I keep counting heights of buildings in Malden and Melrose, and I see a 6. This is going to be a 7-story building, essentially, by the time you get the screen or the fence on top of the utilities. And the general massiveness of the building it's just huge. And I never saw another quick sketch of how else could this building look other than all the details that there were. A couple of years ago, they were focused intently on the turrets on the buildings and not looking at, gee, this thing is really massive. So I think that Deanne's comments are spot on in terms of this is a new project. This is, toss it out, take out the trace, look at it slightly differently, bring it down. Real estate development, it's not my thing. I don't know whether they're going to make a profit on this or not. If you brought it down, you took off those 2 stories on the top, it is still massive. I mean, and the fact that you look at the building, like Dion was saying, from up above, that stepping back, the building is still going to be massive. So I think it's worth kind of, shake it up a little bit, look at it again, bring it down in size. Maybe it relates more to the village and less to being a municipal building. And I think, from historical commission side of things, I was shocked that this is fitting with the historical commission. I mean, I presented to the historical commission about the train station and how it could have had a much more historic relationship to it. But that was said they couldn't do that kind of thing. Yet I know that in Acton, they did that very thing because I know the architect who worked on that project. So it's just, I appreciate your time on this. I don't want to go any farther, but I think it's definitely worth looking at it afresh.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
See how it could work. So.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come on up.
I'm Roger Wilson on town meeting, and I followed this project a little bit. We're at this juncture because people didn't want a tall building, and in order to make money, they put it out. But we're down the road quite a bit at this point. And seems to me that this is pretty close to what was approved. I had my business in that laundry building for quite a while, and it's a great location and would make a great development. I don't understand why people are so concerned about height. If they could make money and make the thing taller and smaller footprint, to me, it would be better. But you're at this point now. I either you go forward with the general idea, or kick the whole thing back to the drawing board. And I think that's bad precedent for the town to be telling, oh, you can't build it high, then, so squash it out, and make it as big as possible, which is what the last developer did. Now, these people are trying to do more or less the same thing. As far as vitality and commercial space, the vitality that I see that this project would bring is residents, living people who would make the downtown more vital for the businesses that are already here. And I think that's an important concern. As listening to this, there's the expression, it takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't take a village to design a building. The more people that are involved, the worse the thing seems to get, in my opinion. And I just wonder, where is the planning board trying to go here? We had this whole thing of building up the downtown, and then when this building was originally proposed, my understanding was it was within the height limits that the planning board had set, but the planning board itself turned around and said, we don't want it that tall. So I really question where this process is going. If you don't go ahead with this project, you're really going to start over again?
Yeah,
Except for, the collected, everybody that has an opinion here doesn't own the property. That's the...
Right. Thank you, appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to come to the mic, make some comments? Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
Oh, it's been complete, okay. Thank you. Thank you for all those comments. They're very useful for us to hear. And I think it might be worth giving a little bit of context. Many people know this, but for those who don't, the project is approved under certain conditions. So essentially the mass of the building, notwithstanding the 6 feet that we're requesting, is already approved. So to go back to the drawing board at this point is not really in the process, right? It's either the approved project or a 6-foot higher project. So while we appreciate, the tension between density, some people like density in urban locations, some people don't. There's 4-story high building or a 6-story high building. Different people will come out that differently. We heard some important opinions tonight about why a 4-story building or less would be better here. But that's really not this process as I understand it. It is either we move forward with the proposed building or we move forward with the already approved building. So a second point that's worth noting is that we're trying to resurrect a project that's been languishing for many years. It's proven to be infeasible. That's why the previous developer went bankrupt. We're trying to tweak it, understanding that change from the original proposal is not ideal. We tried to keep it in keeping as close as we could to the original plan. And even taking the feedback that we heard last meeting, we made some important changes, and we can make some more changes from feedback we heard tonight, certainly, on the margins. But if it's, one thing that is important to note, I think, because this project is about to go into foreclosure if we don't resurrect it, is that if it goes into foreclosure, it goes into auction, and probably a 40B developer picks it up, and all this process is for naught because they can bypass many of the regulations, and we'll end up with, I would think, a lesser quality, less beautiful building. So appreciating all the comments that we've heard, we'll do our best to incorporate on everything we can. We tried listening, we put the units back, we put the commercial back, and but it does come with some change. So with that backdrop, we just wanted to let you know that we'll be as sensitive as we can. But for us, and I think really for this, if this is probably the last road for the project, and we hope we can work on it together and create something beautiful here. Not perfect for everyone, but hopefully better than that's what's there today, and it will be a vibrant addition to the town.
Thank you for the comments. Anything else on 10 Converse Place from... So again, our next meeting will be the board discussing the pathways forward and hopefully hearing from other boards and commissions in town and past board members on how we got here and how we go forward. There's a lot to consider. It's again, you know, I reiterate the comments that it's one of the most precious parcels in town. It's a beautiful spot. I mean, you know, spending any time on that property is brings you closer to the river. It's the focal point for the Halloween parade and the Glendowerty and the Town Day. I mean, we really circulate that building, and we want to spend a lot of time making sure that we create something that is accessible and beautiful and not just a big obstacle to enjoying the downtown area. We're very sensitive to that. We all, you know, we recycle a lot of town members on different boards and commissions, so I think a lot of us have been around long enough to have seen this from a few different seats, and we're not taking the task lightly. We agree that the future is uncertain if this project doesn't go forward with the current proposal, but that's for next meeting. So if there are no further comments, thank you all for coming. I'm sure you want to stay tuned for the next step of the meeting, but if not, it's okay. I won't take it personally. I don't think there's any other business for the public hearing. So we can...
Motion to close the public hearing. Yes, continue the public hearing.
Keep this discussion in the public hearing.
Continue the public hearing for, but for which?
Not for all items.
10 Converse and
The ledges.
also
The
the ledges. Move to continue the public hearing to April 15th for 10 Converse and the ledges.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the public hearing is continued. If anyone needs a short break, now is your moment. Thank you. Good night.
Do you have a business card?
I don't, but I could write my info down for you.
Or actually, you've got my email. Just send it to me.
Perfect. I will certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Sorry, my phone rang in the middle.
Is that what that
Mark
was?
Mark Toogood started calling me, and I was like, no.
I'm sorry, I'm going to miss that. But don't vote on the 15th. Don't take a vote.
No, we're not voting on the
Okay.
15th. No, we're not.
But
That's
the
it's
6th
more
is
discussion.
what you're saying, May 6th is the,
What's that? The 6th would be a vote.
that's when we vote?
Well,
But
I...
potent-
Open, I gotta be honest, I didn't prep much about that, so I think I just hand it over to Taylor.
We have,
We don't have anyone from Euclid, right? So we have elections on our,
is anyone here from Euclid? So we have elections, board elections. Carrie?
yes, sir? I thought you were running elections. Am I running elections?
Just, it's your last opportunity to,
I nominate myself, no, I'm just kidding. It's April Fool's Day. I nominate myself to remain planning board chair for the remainder of my mortal time on this earth. I will, just in case that I don't end up staying chair, I will thank everyone for their work this year. We got a lot done and the work was good.
so I have submitted my recommendations for nominations to the board. They have the responsibility, they don't need to follow my recommendations. But the positions on the left are the positions that need to be decided tonight.
So this is updated, yeah, okay.
I had spoken with Brian about flipping a couple. Did you share that with everybody?
Is this
No,
the
we-
flipped
this is-
version or
nothing
is
has
this
changed
the
on this.
pre-flipped?
This is the original version.
Nothing has changed since any other
You
conversation.
do the officers and then move on to the
Yeah.
positions one at a time.
Okey doke.
So we need nominations from the floor?
I thought you took the nominate, I was under the impression that the staff member would step in and handle nominations, but do you want me to do
Okay, I
it?
can do that. Would anyone like to nominate someone for the chair of the planning board?
I will.
Who would you like to nominate, Nick?
I'll nominate Brian.
Brian Bernalia? Anyone?
Second.
Raise of hands. Who else would like to nominate Brian?
Wait, wait, you need a nomination in a second, and then do we all?
Sorry, who else would?
John seconded it.
Yep, John seconded. Who else? Who would approve?
Oh, I see, so we're voting on the
Mhm.
chair now.
It's unanimous.
I gratefully relinquish the reins.
Thank you,
I
Carrie.
think you did a fantastic job. You brought just incredible professionalism to the role. Even tonight, it was just a wonder to see you in action. So we're going to miss you as chair.
Stop it. Thank you, Nick, that's
Huge
very
shoes.
sweet.
You made the best presentation at the town meeting I've seen in 15 years.
I get a lot of accolades for that. It's really funny. Appreciate it. Thank you. We're in good hands. Do you
So
want
would
to
you like me to
switch?
Would the new
continue?
chair like to say anything?
Thank you very much
Speech.
thank you for
I think
your,
Brian's going to do great.
thank you for your trust in me, and it's going to be really hard to follow in Carrie's footsteps, but I know that
No,
you're going to all help me,
you'll be
and
fine. You'll have your own style.
you're going to correct me when I make mistakes, because I'm going to forget and make lots of mistakes, so.
Do you want to switch seats?
No.
Okay, are you sure?
But thank you, and would you like me to?
If you would like to.
Okay. I would welcome nominations for vice chair.
I nominate John Cortezas for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
I guess we should give him a second to accept the nomination, which we did not do.
I accept.
Excellent.
Are there any other nominations? Close nominations. All in favor? Welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Would you care to say anything?
It'd be great. Your expertise is really valuable on this board, and I hope that this position encourages you to speak up often and loudly.
And Brian gets stuck in Paris because of a strike or something, which is highly likely.
Yeah,
Thought
right,
about that.
right. Oh, God.
How long are you going to be there?
6 months, no.
You don't know. A lot of strikes in France.
September, whatever. If I don't come back.
Wait a minute. It doesn't matter to me. Sounds great.
So lastly, as far as planning board officers, I would welcome a nomination for clerk.
I nominate, can we say it together, Jacques Leménager? Leménager. So we go with the French. We lean into the French. I nominate Jacques Leménager for clerk.
Are there any other nominations for clerk? Close nominations, and all in favor? Thank you so much for stepping up in your first meeting, and you are now clerk.
Yep.
Welcome. If you want to say anything, but
You have some great templates. It was strategic to do Euclid after this because
Yes,
that's on him.
I'm all set. I'm all ready. Brian
I
Pratt.
may have talked about that. I may have sent, just in case this scenario happened. So we have a number of representatives. I believe 5 are actually voting members and 1 is a non-voting member. So we have Capital Planning, Committee on Names, Housing Partnership Board, Permanent Street Tree Committee, and WCCP, which are all voting members. And then technically CBDRS, I believe, is just a liaison, but it's still an important one that we need to have. We have to have a planning board member there pretty much at all times. Shall we just start at the top and work our ways down?
Yes, go for it.
Capital planning is, I would
nominate Brian for that.
So we'll do the nomination.
I would welcome nominations for capital planning. See, it's my first meeting. I need your help.
As he is the vice chair of that, I will second that nomination.
Any other nominations for capital planning? Close nominations. Vote. All in favor? Thank you. It would have been awkward if you kicked me off as vice chair, but
especially if you sent me in there.
And so this is slightly different than I had. Oh,
There could have been revisions made. You can feel free to deviate if you need.
No, the committee names
They
look
look
fine
good.
with that. It's the.
yeah. So let's move on to the. Can I get a nomination for the Committee on Names?
Fine.
I nominate Jack Lemenager for the Committee on Names.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Close nominations. All in favor? Moving on to, I want to go a little bit out of order. I want to do the Permanent Street Tree Committee. I'd welcome a nomination to the Permanent Street Tree Committee.
I nominate Carrie Layton.
I second that.
Any additional nominations? Close nominations. All in
Sorry,
favor?
David. You're still stuck with me.
And then now I'd like to move on to the WCCP. I believe that
I don't know if this is out of order, I would propose if John is amenable to flipping that and the housing partnership, that I take housing partnership and John take WCCP if he's amenable.
so a nomination for the WCCP. Did I hear just your nomination?
With the understanding that the WCCP is in its origin story and will require a significant amount of work. You are able to.
Can I speak to that?
A bit out of order.
Maybe after the meeting. I'm just not sure that right now we need to do this only because it's 9:00 at night. And I want to get through some of this so that we can all get home tonight and I can get to Paris. So was that a nomination for John for WCCP?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Any additional nominations? Close nominations. All in favor? Aye. With that, I would move on to the Housing Partnership Board. Are there any nominations for the Housing Partnership Board?
I'll nominate Jack Lemenager.
Second.
Any additional nominations? Close nominations. All in favor? I believe that leaves us with, well, not listed up there because it's been moved. It's the CBDRS was
Oh, right.
on here, but it's not there. And that's a liaison.
It's a non-voting member.
It's a non-voting member, much like the Design Review Liaison, Disability Access, Heritage District Commission, and Historical Commission. I don't believe we need to vote.
That's why I removed it. And I actually, since posting this, I actually would agree with that on the other liaisons as well.
Okay.
I don't think we need to lock individual planning boards members into that position.
Perfect. So
Works for me.
So we will not lock any of those in there, and we can talk about when people who is available to do what, and if you're interested in one of those liaisons, just speak up. There's enough work to go around. I think everybody should be happy with that. So
It looks good to me.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean,
I am now lightly
Willingly
committed,
giving
so
up
I'll take
Historical
it.
Commission?
no.
You're doing such a good job.
So that Brings us to board and staff updates. As new chair, I have no updates. I
As
would
old
welcome any
chair, I have
updates.
no updates.
I would welcome updates from anybody on the board. Hearing none, welcome any staff updates?
No.
None?
Any Naomi updates?
We had a good night's sleep last night.
All right.
That's the best news we've had all
To the
day.
town planner.
So with that, I would move on to the approval of minutes. We had 3 sets of minutes. Since I wasn't chair, I don't know if any comments came back on them. I had no questions. Anybody have any questions or comments or concerns on the minutes? I would welcome, if possible, a motion to approve all 3 sets
So
at once.
moved.
Ooh, I like that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I will abstain.
Perfect.
Yep,
So
that
we-
makes sense.
It's 4-0 with 1 abstention. And that brings us on to development review, which is for an application Z25-6. It's for a special permit at 4 Euclid Avenue. Do we have any? We do not have anybody here for 4 Euclid Avenue.
Not you, Maura, huh? No, no. Okay.
You gave us a memo, I believe, that was at the table. So if you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, this is for the addition of an attached structure that's about, what was it? About 4 foot 7 inch to 6 inches by 4 foot 7 inch by 6 foot, that is at the same non-conforming setback as the side of the house that it's going into. And there was an image of it. So that's what,
7 additional square feet, I believe.
how many was it?
27.
27.
27.5 square feet.
It's tiny.
It's about the size of this, half of this table, probably.
Do you mean the
it's-
image of where it's going?
That right there, yes, that was right there.
Yeah.
So it's going in that. So the non-conforming setback is 10 foot 6 inches, and it's extending it back, and that is eligible for a special permit as opposed to needing a variance because of the pre-existing non-conforming.
What are they doing with the space?
It's a mudroom, I think.
No, it's becoming a kitchen.
Is it a kitchen?
They're turning the whole back section into a kitchen, a larger kitchen. There's a schematic further down.
Yeah, here you go, Tom.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I thought I misread it as being the mudroom at the back when I looked at that plan.
No, it's counters.
No, is that the existing? No. Yeah, so it's that.
They're rounding out that corner.
Yeah, it's a bathroom. Squaring it off.
No,
No, that's existing.
That's existing, yeah, there's another one after that.
There it is.
Yeah.
You got rid of the bathroom. They're just squaring that corner there.
Wait, there's no bathroom on the first
No
floor?
bathroom on the first floor.
This is madness.
So they moved you to the study. Go back.
Oh, there is. Did they move it to the study?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it there. I didn't notice. Okay.
We won't be making any phone calls. Okay.
Do you have anything to add to this project, having reviewed it?
Ian's responsible for reviewing
Ian.
ZBA petitions.
Thank you.
You've summarized it well.
Okay.
I think this is a minor change of no significance, in my opinion. It's not visible from the street. Not appreciably visible from the street. It's not further encroaching on the setback. I have no problem with this.
Yeah, I don't.
We haven't heard from neighbors, right? One way or another, have they been notified?
They are required to be notified,
And we haven't heard
but
from
we
them.
do not, we typically do not hear from them.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
Doesn't harm the neighborhood, doesn't add a significant burden to the,
It's tiny.
it's tiny, it's a nice upgrade to the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Would know it had been.
If we say no, does it drive business to 585 Main? Trying to think holistic economic picture.
Anybody like to formulate a motion for this?
I move to approve the special permit for what number?
4.
For
Recommend
Euclid.
Favorable action.
I move to recommend favorable action on the special permit requested by 4 Euclid on the grounds that it does not add significant negative impact to the neighborhood, and it does positively impact the property.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Any additional comments or discussion? Hearing none, a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Votes unanimous. That brings us to additional business. Is there any additional business for anybody?
Does anyone have a good French phrase Brian should bring with him to Paris? I can say everything about gluten in most languages, so.
If there is nothing further, I would welcome, well, actually, before this, I just again want to thank you, Carrie, for leading the committee.
And thank
through
you for leading us forward.
One of the most difficult years in many years, as far as 2 major initiatives going to town meeting. 2 major initiatives at town meeting.
You did.
I appreciate it, and I hope it puts the brakes on for your tenure.
That's the goal.
No, you've got 10 goals.
That's good timing. So I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Great. Thanks,
WinCam.
Brian.
Thank you very much.